are going to now take a look at how one family uses budgeting as part of their financial management process in this video from Real Families, Real Answers.
Brian and Angela Hughes have 4 children and live in Bedford, New Hampshire, just 40 miles north of Boston. The Hughes, like most families, are learning through trial and error that creating and living within a family budget is central to their financial plan, as well as the peace of mind that comes with it.
Budgeting has always been important to us. We've always had plans. One of the most unfortunate things I think that happened with us coming out of school is we didn't have any debt. So one of the main things we wanted to do is to continue to be debt-free. That's always been very, very important to us. And since we've agreed on that, we've been able to, I think, plan to use our money as well as save our money and not just rush out and buy something. A lot of times we've had to wait quite a long time to do something.
Well, I think the first thing with any great budget is you have to have a category for everything. You either need to do an Excel program or a Quicken program, a money program, and just know on paper, because I think you'll be surprised when you write everything down. You spend a lot more than you think you do.
It really is humbling to see the budget on paper. And it can be annoying to people, which is a good sign. That means it's working. It's a centering document. A few months of budgeting, you begin to really calibrate your spending.
I knew the categories as far as, house payment, food.
65.
But as she went through that and gave every single thing as far as kids' birthday parties and Christmas presents, and it's amazing how much those added up. I was surprised.
I think a lot of families lose money in, the small leaks.
Solomon, many, many centuries ago, told us that it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. The little things that we don't expect that can really eat up those expenses.
We put everything on credit cards, which to a lot of people may sound like, oh, you shouldn't put things on credit cards. But what we do is when we get our monthly check in, we put it in the bank, and then we kind of monitor it as it comes through, and then we know exactly where everything's going.
We design the budget, and then the budget helps us control what we've already decided to do. Whether we choose to use credit or cash or check, it doesn't matter. If people will record their credit card expenditures as if it were a check, then they will have money left over in their checking account to send to the credit card company.
Money goes towards that credit card. The credit card's not free. You're paying it off every single month, and be disciplined in doing that. If you can't be disciplined in paying it off every month, then you need to go to a system where you have money in an envelope and you're carrying that, and once it's gone, you're done. I think that we used it a lot last year. The hard part of budgeting is the follow-up. And that's sitting down regularly and talking about it.
There has to be some time where they agree to sit down and have a non-confrontational discussion about their finances. Both spouses should know what the take-home pay is. Both spouses should know what the major expenditures are. And they consider the month in review, and then they simultaneously start to plan the month coming up.
This is our credit card statement.
Parents also have the responsibility to pass along important financial concepts to their children. The Hughes discovered that one of the best ways is through family councils.
You helped with the garage. We talk about a lot of different things at the family council, whatever's relevant at that time, but I think that's a good time to talk about money and talk about, what our future goals are.
Just being asked to be there at that family council, to be part of that discussion, is unifying. And frankly, that's how we pass on not only communication skills, but some pragmatic financial skills to our children.
Well, welcome back, and we'd like to welcome our guest expert for this segment. His name is Preston Cochran. Preston is the President and Chief Executive Officer of AAA Fair Credit Foundation, a nonprofit credit counseling organization that helps individuals and families manage their finances wisely to improve their economic stability and their financial security. So as a reminder, if you have a question for Preston or you would like to speak to one of the specialists who are manning our phone banks tonight, you can call confidentially anytime you need right now at 1-800-298-5298. And Preston, thank you for being with us. And just by watching that video again, it reminds me how many families are troubled by their credit card debt. We've already had one call. So talk to me a little bit about how we can reduce our debts as we've become almost addicted to credit cards.
Well, debt repayment methods, there's many different methods that people can choose from. You can have everything from debt management plans to debt settlement to bankruptcy to refinancing an existing mortgage, and even doing nothing, believe it or not, is an option for people. But in terms of reducing your debt, really the first thing you need to do is know how much you owe. Too often times people get into debt and they don't understand or don't know the total amount of debt that they have.
Or they don't want to look at it.
Or they want to look at it.
Sure.
Exactly. And so they've got to sit down, they've got to take control. If they don't take control of their debt now, it's going to take control of them. They're going to be consumed by it. It's going to do a lot of things to their psyche. And in terms of their productivity, even at work, they're going to be thinking about, in the back of their mind, debt and how are they going to deal with this. And so in terms of what resources are out there, there's plenty of online calculators, there's plenty of tools, there's plenty of programs. One program that works really well for people is a program that Utah State University has developed called PowerPay. And they have a website, powerpay.org, which allows someone to enter all of their information, their debts, and create a rollover plan and see exactly how much money is being applied to a debt. And then they can use that same amount every month, apply it to the next debt, and so forth.
So once you pay off one credit card, you have more money available then to pay off your next one.
Right.
Powerpay.org. That's a great idea. We've got a call, and it's Richard from Provo. Richard, thank you for calling Economic Sense, and how can we help you?
I have noticed that there are a lot of ads from companies and from credit counseling services for helping you to get rid of debt and that sort of thing. And I'm wondering whether some are more reputable or better than others, or whether some are troublesome.
That's a great question I get a lot. And what I would say is do your homework. Before you pick up the phone and call a toll-free number, there's places that you can check. You can check the Division of Consumer Protection's website. They'll have a list of all licensed and accredited service providers in the state of Utah and throughout the country. That's probably the best place to check. Even the Better Business Bureau. You can call them, you can check records, you can see if they've had complaints, see what type of services that they offer. And there is a lot of ads right now for people that are...
It's confusing because you're not quite sure, is this something that the government or nonprofit organization set up to help me, or are they going to try to make more money off of my already existing debt situation?
That's right. You have for-profit service providers, you have nonprofit service providers. What are the differences? And so really the key is to understand, and especially calling 211 information and referral. They can point you to legitimate companies who have a good track record, they can help you, and they can steer you in the right direction. That's a good question.
Well, and we appreciated his call. And just a few moments ago, you brought up PowerPay out of Utah State University. And the principles of why that works in eliminating our debt, is it because we did the scary thing, which was first evaluated our debts and actually looked at where all our expenses are, or is it does the power come from rolling the payments from one credit card to another? I guess.
Yeah, it's like an avalanche. It's like a snowball approach. I mean, as you pay off a debt, it's a quick win. You feel like you've you've successfully paid off a debt, and by doing so, you're going to keep the same payment that you're used to paying, rather than just saying, well, I'm not going to pay that one anymore. I'm going to lower my payment. You want to do that so that you accelerate your payoff.
All right, so if you pay off a $1,000 credit card, but you still have a there you've got a graphic right there, debt number 1, debt number 2, debt number 3. So if you're paying off debt number 1, $50 a month you were paying on that debt, but it's now paid off, that $50 goes towards
debt number 2.
Okay.
And so on, and it goes down the line.
And you're paying off more because on debt number 2 before you were only paying 50, now you're paying 100 because you added that.
That's right.
And then maybe by debt 3, you've got 150 months, so everything starts to avalanche in a positive way.
Correct.
Right?
And the other thing is the amount of money you're saving in interest. If you're just making the minimum payments, the majority of that payment is going towards interest. And with the new Credit Card Reform Act, which is taking place right now, a lot of interest rates are skyrocketing before the deadline. And so it's important that people read their statements. Look at what your interest rate is. Don't just pay the minimum payment. Look at what the interest rate is, and you can strategically design a customized plan for you.
So that you're paying off the highest interest first.
That's right.
And then moving through those. And I like that, the avalanche finally working in our favor. We have Dave, I believe it's David from Linden, who is calling. Welcome to Economic Sense. What's your question?
Thank you very much. My question is, I have about $10,000 in American Express and Visa bills, debt, I should say, and it ranges between 27 and 30%. And I'm in the process of refinancing my house at 4.625%. Would I be better off rolling this $10,000 into my mortgage to the 4.6%, or just sticking it out and continuing to try and pay them off?
Oh, great question. I'm going to let the
Good
expert
question.
on that one.
I think a lot of people have that same, they're in that same scenario. Interest rates on mortgages are low right now.
Below 5%.
They're taking advantage of them. A lot of people are refinancing. So if you do the math, it's really not rocket science. If you take the 27% versus the lower interest rate, obviously, if you can roll it in and into that debt, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense to do that.
All right, so there's your answer. That was quick and simple. A lot of people, when you brought up or we're talking about refinancing and mortgages, and it's out there right now, is there a tipping point? I mean, in his situation, he has 27% interest, $10,000 of it, and so it was clear cut versus moving it into a 4% interest. But is there a tipping point? I mean, because we can use our home equity lines, we can use refinances as crutches to manage our debt. What is your advice there?
Well, you don't want to over leverage yourself. You don't want to set yourself up for failure. You don't want to get into a loan that you think you can afford because someone told you they think you can afford it. You want to do your homework. You want to make sure that you're not buying too much home. We've seen the foreclosure rates are larger than they've ever been. And so people really need to determine how much debt they have, how much debt that they can roll into that loan. And especially with the tightening of credit, a lot of lenders aren't lending or have the similar programs of what they had 12 months ago.
They want you to be closer to the 700 levels.
Yeah. So, and that gets into credit reports and credit scoring, and if you could even qualify for a loan like that.
Well, and we mentioned that AAA is a nonprofit organization and available for those, and you said that 211 is a great number to call. If you want to have someone objectively look at your credit ratio versus how much you're earning and kind of give you some advice and tips, is that the role of or where would we turn to? Because it is kind of scary to have a credit report printed out. I mean, who do you go to for that? What's your advice?
Here's the thing with credit reports is any consumer is entitled to receive a copy of their free report by all three of the national credit bureaus once a year. The official site for that is annualcreditreport.com. If you go to that site, you can order that credit report right there on the website. You can look at it. If it seems foreign to you, you need help understanding it, there's people that you can call that can help you and walk you through that.
All right. And it's long. The older we are, the longer that credit report is, isn't it?
It's become much more easier to read, much more consumer friendly. But there's still some nuances and some things that if you've never looked at a credit report, which about 60% of consumers have never even looked at a copy of their credit report,
that high of
that
percentage.
high, yeah.
And what do we learn by, I guess, having the courage again and looking at our credit history? What do we learn about ourselves, and how does that help us kind of move forward?
Before you make a major purchase, you should always pull a copy of your credit report so you see that there's no surprises, so that when you go into a lender, if you were turned down for a loan, you understand maybe why. What are the reasons I was turned down? And plus, you're better educated. That way you understand if they're going to give you a predatory loan, a high interest rate loan, and you've got a high credit score, you know for a fact that you might be being taken advantage of.
And let's say that you take a look at that credit score, and I'm just going to pull a number out. Not that it's not my expertise, but it's looking around the 500 zone versus the 700 zone. Steps that I can take as a consumer to improve that credit score.
Lots of strategies in terms of building credit. There's people that are trying to maintain their current credit right now. There's people that are trying to build credit to obtain, say, a car loan. And there's people that really don't care about their credit because they might be in a financial crisis situation. And that's perfectly fine. In those situations, the last thing on your mind is probably your credit score. The first thing on your mind is putting food on the table and keeping a roof over your head. And so in order to understand what a credit score is, and a credit score really is a complex mathematical equation. It's like that secret sauce for Coca-Cola. Not a lot of people know it. Not a lot of people know how to figure it out. But there are some guidelines that you can use to help you understand how that formula, how your credit score is calculated.
All right. We've got another phone call, and of course anyone's welcome to call, and we'll take advantage of your expertise, Preston. Our toll-free number is 1-800-298-5298, but we've got a call from West Jordan right now. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to Economic Sense. How can we help you?
Yes, hi. We have created some credit card debt due to an accident my husband had. So we're trying to work that debt out. How can I get a lower interest, or should I use a consolidation loan?
Okay, so she's got a credit card that has a high interest. She wants advice on what to do with that and should she get that loan consolidated. And thank you for calling. There are a lot of people in your situation.
It's a good question. A lot of times people think the answer to my debt problem is to take on another loan. And all you're simply doing is adding more debt onto your debt load. So really the key there is to really focus in on your debt, focus your budget on debt repayment. Don't go out and get another loan, especially if you're going to go out and maybe you have some negative information on your credit report. You may have an interest rate that's higher than what you're currently paying. So you really have to compare them.
So when she says, should I consolidate my my debt or my credit cards, I've got a number of them, I guess the answer I'm getting from you is if you're going to incur more debt to do that, then that might not be the wise decision. But if you can get that same amount of money borrowed at a much lower interest rate, then that's the move to take?
Well, there's also you have debt consolidation loans, you have home equity lines of credit. Anytime you have something like that, there's usually collateral that's attached to that loan. So if you defaulted on that loan, the lender could go in and repossess whatever you have as collateral versus an unsecured type of loan like a credit card. If you don't pay that, you'll obviously go past due and go into collections and receive fees. And if it keeps going and going and going, there's going to be other problems like garnishments, but perhaps a judgment. So really, the thing between a consolidation loan and a credit card is I would recommend focus on the debt first, because if you have that consolidation loan, should something happen, I don't know, do you know when your next financial emergency is going to take place?
No, but it's probably yesterday.
Probably yesterday. It might be tomorrow. You never know.
Right.
And so if you have that available line of credit, you might be much more willing to use that and create more debt and eventually have a higher debt load.
You mentioned that, as a result of the economic crisis or financial situation we've been in over the last year, we have seen lenders being more cautious with us. And you have to have a better credit score than you used to. But you also said that credit score is kind of a magic formula that we don't know. There's some things you do know about it. So what goes into that credit score that we can control?
A credit score is truly an asset. If you have better credit, you're going to enjoy lower interest rates, lower insurance rates, and many employers are even pulling credit to see if they're going to hire you for a position, a job with their company. And so
that's a surprise. Wow.
Well, I mean, if you want to make sure that you're hiring people that don't have a record of fraud or liabilities and things like that, especially if you're dealing with personal information. But
now, we have a great graphic right now that everyone can see that shows how credit scores are calculated. So there's a big pie chart right there. And the largest looks to be the payment history, 35%?
Correct. And your payment history is 35% of your score, and then the next would be amounts owed. That's 30%. So the majority of your score right there is based on your payment history.
How often, and how frequent and regular you've been making payments,
and the amounts owed. How much debt do you have?
Currently.
Correct. Okay. So if the payment history is based on your ability to pay debts on time or pay your accounts on time, truly it's a financial report card. And the better your report card, the better grades you get, the better interest rates you're going to get over time, the more money you're going to save in your pocket.
Well, just a small part of the pie, 10% of it says that it depends on the type of credit used. And that's new to me. What
types of credit? It could be anything from a retail credit card to a store card to an affinity card to a loan, a car loan, a mortgage loan. So types of credit, they're bundled, they're different types depending on what your loan or what your line of credit may be.
All right, and length of credit history 15% and new credit 10%. When we look back at that, we see 65% has to do with our payment history and our current payments that we're making right now. How do we improve that? Because that seems to be, a big piece of the pie.
First would be you need to manage it. You need to know when your due dates are. You need to open your mail on time, especially with identity theft. You want to make sure that your bills are arriving to your mailbox. If all of a sudden the bills aren't showing up and something may not seem right or feel right, you want to make sure that you're getting those statements.
And you've got some other tips. So correcting your credit problems, determining what you owe, which you'll do when you open up those statements.
Right.
Focusing your budget on debt reduction.
But yeah, that's the one thing which David talked about in terms of if you're looking to paying down debt, you've got to have a line item in there that says, here's how much money I'm putting towards debt. Yes, you've got utilities to pay, you've got groceries, you've got gas, you've got insurance, but you've also got to reserve that, and you've got to make sacrifices. As a family, and you're communicating with one another, you've got to work together. It may mean that that annual family trip that you've planned, you may have to cut back on that this year.
You've heard a lot of terms of staycations versus the vacations.
What better place than Utah?
Well, and what better time to take another call? We've got, I believe it's Susan calling in from North Ogden. I hope I have your name right. Susan, thank you for calling Economic Sense, and how can we help you?
Well, I had a fixed loan with a company for $399, and the company was bought out, and the new company put it at $17,900.
Oh.
And they said they can do anything that they want to with it as long as they give me notice.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, Susan, what's happening in the consolidation world of credit card issuers? There's a lot of portfolios that are being acquired by other credit card companies, and therefore they go under the new standards or the new interest rates under that new issuer. So it's very common. The other thing that's very common is available lines of credit are being reduced, especially for those people that might be paying the balances in full at the end of the month versus those that are just making minimum payments. So the term that I use is called a teaser rate. Many issuers will use a teaser rate to get you in the door to sign an application, and it might be 3%, it might be 6% for a short period of time, and after that time is up, then that interest rate might jump up. So,
and that's one of the risks of credit card use or these credit lines that are unsecured, is that they're in control of the interest rate that we will pay.
They do. Luckily for the consumer, there's been new legislation. In fact, today in the House they signed the credit card changes which move the date up to December 1st, which would have otherwise been February 22nd. And there's some changes that benefit the consumer in terms of notification of interest rate changes. It's now an opt-in if you want to remain with that card if they're going to increase your interest rate.
Or you can opt out.
Or you can opt out.
If she's concerned that the steps are fraudulent, is there a place that she goes to say, I'm thinking that this is fishy?
Well, they should have probably sent her a new term sheet, a new rate of terms with that card, because she probably got a new card with the new name and everything else on it. Read the fine print.
All right, and we've got a call from Judy in Orem. Judy, thank you for calling us this evening. You're on with me, Rebecca Cressman, and Preston Cochran. What can we help you with?
Well, I have a credit card through Bank of America. I owe about $2,500 on it, and I understand that because of the legislation that's going to take place in February, a lot of the big banks are looking to levy all kinds of fees on those credit cards, even if you have a good credit history. So what I'm looking to do is to get another credit card through a credit union that doesn't do that. But what my question is should I then close out the other credit card with Bank of America, or should I leave it open in case I'm going to need that line of credit in the future and then eat the fees that they levy?
It's a great question. A couple points there. First, before you determine if you should just keep adding more cards to your wallet or your purse, you need to decide, well, if I lost my job today, how much do I have in my savings account that in reserve that I could pay my credit card bill? If all of a sudden you have 2 more cards and you're adding a new credit union card, you're adding more debt. It would make sense if your Bank of America card, Judy, went from the $2,500 balance. If you were charged an annual fee, which many credit card companies will charge an annual fee, many don't. You need to shop around. You need to do your homework again and determine what card is right for you, and understand that if you do transfer the balance on your Bank of America card to your credit union, the new card, that there might be a fee, and chances are there will be a fee involved for that. So are you willing to pay for those costs? And the last part of your question, Judy, was should you close that account down? That's kind of a misconception, a myth, especially in the lending world. You looked at the pie chart on the credit report and the credit scoring model. A lot of your credit score is based on the length of credit history. So if all of a sudden you're taking off all this history that you've built up, and if you've been a good paying customer, you don't want to erase that.
Right, you want that on there saying you've paid it off before and it's still there.
Yeah, if you don't use the card, that's fine. Don't use the card. Cut it up, throw it away, do what you will with it. But just you don't need to go and close that.
All right, and of course, best thing for you to do is talk to the banks, talk to the credit unions, and do your homework. We have just a minute or so, but any other last tips? And I just appreciate, Preston, everything you've told us so far.
As far as last tips, I want to make sure that people understand if they are in debt or there are some warning signs of over-indebtedness, and oftentimes it takes a wake-up call for you to realize that you are in debt. If you're doing a lot of balance transfers, if you are paying for just your basic essentials on your credit card, gas and groceries and things like that, if you're constantly exceeding your credit limits, if you're constantly paying your bills late, if you're only paying the minimum amounts due, these are warning signs that should send off, a light bulb to say, time out, I need to stop, I need to talk to a professional and get some help and get me back on track.
Well, thank you for being one of the professionals that we brought here tonight, and of course for all of our volunteers who've been manning the phones and answering those questions. We really do appreciate your expertise. The financial downturn can be a heavy topic, and while the effects can be devastating, they don't have to remain that way. There's hope. And help is available in Utah right now. One of the best places to find the resources that are closest to you is 211 Resource and Information. It's a helpline whose mission is to answer questions, to provide assistance to you, and to offer guidance. Now, 211 representatives provide a free and confidential service that directs callers to reputable public and private agencies that can ease your financial worries. You can also visit kbyutv.org/economic sense for the links to many of the resources that we've talked about tonight. Thank you for watching Economic Sense, and thank you to our financial specialists from AAA Fair Credit Foundation, from the United Way of Utah County, BYU, and USU Extension Services for being here with us this evening. Join us next week when housing specialists will be available to take your calls, and we'll discuss the ins and the outs of home mortgages, avoiding foreclosure, and how to spot mortgage fraud. For KBYU 11, I'm Rebecca Cressman. Good night.
Economic Sense is made possible by contributing viewers of KBYU and by the Utah Housing Coalition, Community Action Services and Food Bank, and Utah State University Extension.